Hi, I'm Rebecca from Little Adventure Shop, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about the key things you should think about before buying a pair of ski gloves or mittens for your kids. Okay, so there are a few things we always get asked about by customers looking for ski gloves or mittens for children. Number one is warmth, then they want to know about sizing, then they also want to know about waterproofness or lack of waterproofing, and also they want to know about the extra features and what they should look out for. So we're going to run through all of these, and then at the end we've got a few tips for you on keeping your kids' hands warm for skiing as well. Okay, so number one on everyone's list on questions to ask us about gloves is warmth. And really there's one really simple rule you need to remember. If you compare the same mitten with the equivalent glove, the mitten is always going to be warmest. So if you're worried about your kids' hands getting cold, then stick to mittens. And the reason mittens are warmer is because in a mitten your fingers stay together like this, so the heat that comes down in with your blood warms all of your fingers together, and they all work together to keep your fingers warm. Whereas with a glove they're all separated out, so basically each finger's on its own trying to keep itself warm. So if you want to go for the warmest hand wear, always go for mittens. But obviously there are other advantages to gloves, and we'll get onto those a bit later. But in terms of, and also not all mittens are the same. So here I've got a real top end mitten, and the insulation is actually goose down in this particular mitten. So this is really, really warm. Obviously if you spend a bit less and go for a synthetic insulation, it's still going to be nice and warm, but it won't be as warm as the goose down one. So it kind of depends on what you want to pay for, but if you want really warm, go for mittens. If you want really, really warm, buy a high-end pair of mittens. Okay, next up is sizing. Now, things to remember about glove sizing is when you're buying online, you'll see the sizing in two different formats. Firstly, you'll probably see it in age range. So you'll have like a glove size for 6 to 8 years, 8 to 10 years, that kind of thing. And then on the traditional side, you've got an actual glove size. So this will be like a glove size 4, which is equivalent to age, I'm trying to remember now, I think it's 6 to 7, something like that. So don't get confused with the glove size being the actual age range. So always look for an age range. It'll make buying them online much easier. So let's start at the smallest children, so sort of babies through to 4 years. I would say it's so much easier to go for mittens because A, as we've talked about earlier, they're warmer, but B, they're also a lot easier to get little hands into. So you've really got a couple of options here. You've got like a classic mitten like we've got here from Mambi, which is super value, really nice and warm and waterproof. Really simple, you just slide your hand in and out. It's got a little thumb piece here. If you're buying for really young babies, you might find that actually the thumb's not even there, so it's just like a little pouch, but that usually up to about 12 months they're like that, and then after that you get a little thumb bit. Another thing to consider when buying mittens for little ones is this option, which is this is the Biggles, Didrikson Biggles zip mitten, and here you've got a big zip down the side. Again, this just makes your life as a parent a lot easier because you can open up the mitten like this and your kid can easily slide their hand in. So that's another good option to think about. More and more brands are offering this kind of zip option as well. So mittens are great for little ones. When your child gets to sort of 4 years and upwards, you've got the option of gloves. They're much easier to find at that age range. It's quite difficult to even buy gloves for under 4s. So you've got gloves, you've got mittens, and then you've got the third option, which is an in-between option. It's called a 3-finger glove, and I'll show you those now. So obviously you've got your mitten and your glove that we talked about earlier, and then you've got this 3-fingered option here. So the main difference between your mitten and your glove, other than warmth, is the dexterity. So with a glove, obviously you've got 5 fingers that you can move around independently. With a mitten you're stuck with them all together. So as children get older, quite often they do want a glove because they kind of like the freedom it gives them, and also it looks a bit more kind of grown up. If that's the case, then it is also worth considering a 3-fingered option like this. So here you've got your index finger separate, and then your 3 fingers stay together, so you get quite a lot more warmth than a glove, but you do get the dexterity of having your index finger out and about, so that can be really handy. So that's the thing with sizing. I would say mittens for little ones, and then as you get older it's kind of what you think your child can cope with best. Again, warmth wise it's mittens, but think about the 3-finger gloves as well. Okay, so the third thing people often ask about is, are the gloves waterproof or not? Now, the seasons certainly in Europe are getting much more variable. So you might have a really cold blue sky powder day one day, and the next day weather's warmed up a bit, the snow's a lot heavier and wetter, and there's a lot more moisture in the air. So we really think investing in a pair of waterproof ski gloves is a good idea, because obviously once your kids' hands get wet, they're going to be much harder to keep warm. So waterproofing is different to water resistant. So the waterproof glove will have a membrane. You won't be able to see it. It's inside, in between the insulation and the outer layer. And that's a waterproof breathable membrane. So it might look like sometimes the water on the outside is soaking into the glove, but the membrane will prevent it getting to your hands. So don't worry about that. But water resistant just means that the outer fabric is maybe waterproof, but there's no membrane, and the seals probably aren't sealed either. So if on a wet, damp day, you're going at a risk of getting wet hands if you just have water resistant gloves. So look for proper waterproof membrane in the ski gloves or mittens that you buy. Okay, so there's a couple of features that are with gloves and mittens that are worth thinking about as well. First thing is whether the glove has a gauntlet or not. So this glove here has a gauntlet. You can see it flaring out at the side here, whereas this glove doesn't have a gauntlet, has a cuff. So this glove goes under your coat, whereas this one goes over your coat. So the advantage of having this style of glove is that it will come over your coat here, and if your kid's like elbows deep in powder snow for most of the holiday, you're going to get less snow going into the glove. So that's a really good plus for this one. This one goes under the glove, so you're going to get a bit more snow in there if you're rolling around in the powder snow. But on the other hand, it gives you a bit more flexibility. It's not quite as much fabric sort of around your wrists. So older children can sometimes tend to prefer this. The other thing to think about with a gauntlet is it's really easy to put the first glove or mitten on, but the second one, trying to put it on with your gloved hand, can be a bit of a faff. So if it's with young children, it's probably not an issue because you're going to be doing it anyway. But with older children, a sort of teenager that just wants to chuck their gloves on and get out as quickly as possible, they might be better off with these, because you just slide them on and they're on really, and you're not going to get sort of fabric bunched up around the wrist if you can't be bothered to kind of sort the gauntlet out. So depends what stage your kids are at, but just something to think about. The other feature, which is a must, is having this kind of thing, which is called a glove saver, or Hestra have an equivalent one, and they call it a Hestra handcuff here. So what you do with this is you take it before you put your glove on, you pop it over your wrist, and then you put your glove on. And what it means is when you pull your glove or mitten off, when you're on a chairlift or wherever, you let go of it, you're not going to lose it. So obviously, it's going to save you a lot of money, and it's not ideal to lose a glove or mitten at the top of a mountain. It can be quite serious quite quickly. So 100% make sure your glove's got one of these. If it hasn't got one, you can buy them. We sell them separately as well. Sometimes, just a little tip, sometimes if you're buying online, they won't actually show the glove saver in the video because it doesn't make the picture look so pretty. So read the description and it'll say glove saver, handcuff, something along those lines, and that's what it means. So they're the two features I would look out for. Okay, so hopefully you've got a good idea of what's going to suit your child best in terms of gloves and mittens and all the rest of it. A couple of tips I just want to leave you with. If you want to keep your kids' hands warm, don't leave their gloves outside. Basically, if you get back from days skiing, you're probably going to have slightly damp, sweaty gloves or mittens. Bring them inside, make sure they dry out properly overnight. So when you put them on in the morning, they're nice and warm. So you're not starting with a cold pair of gloves to go on your hands. So put on a warm pair of gloves or mitts in the morning. And the second tip is, particularly applies for young children, try and get them into their gloves before you leave your chalet or hotel or whatever. If they stumble out in their ski boots and they're straight out into the snow, it's going to be really, really cold. The hands are going to cool down really quickly, and then you're sort of on the back foot right from the get-go. So put them on inside, probably just before, literally before you get out the door, and then you're going to start with warm hands, and hopefully they'll stay nice and warm throughout the day. So I hope this has helped you make your decisions. If you've got any comments or extra tips that I've missed, please do add them below in the comment section. And as always, if you like the video, it really helps us if you'd hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Many thanks.